who actually runs Kenya. If you said President William Ruto, you're not entirely wrong, but you're also not entirely right either, because the truth is, presidents don't run countries alone. They have people, a small circle, and a group of people who operate in the shadows, making decisions that affect 50 million Kenyans, and while most of us don't even know their names. These are the people who have Ruto's ear, the people he calls at midnight, and today I'm going to tell you exactly who they are. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand how power really works in Kenya, and here are the 5 people who actually run Kenya. Let's start with the most obvious one. The man who has been by Ruto's side for over 2 decades now. The man who knows every secret and every deal and every move before it happens. His name is Faruk Kibet. If you've been paying attention to Kenyan politics, you've heard this name whispered. Faruk Kibet. He is Ruto's personal aide. His right-hand man. He's the guy who controls access to the president. You want to see Ruto? You have to go through Faruk. You want to pitch a project to the government? Faruk decides if it gets to Ruto's desk. Faruk has been with Ruto since the early 2000s, back when Ruto was just an MP. Back when nobody thought he'd become president, Faruk was there, making sure Ruto's political machine runs smoothly, and for over the years, as Ruto climbed the ladder, Faruk climbed with him. So what does Faruk actually do? He does everything. He manages Ruto's schedule, he even screens visitors. He handles very delicate political negotiations that can't be done publicly. He also delivers messages that can't be sent officially. He is the fixer and he's the problem solver. He is the guy that makes things happen without leaving fingerprints. And he is what makes Faruk so powerful. He doesn't have an official title. He's not like a cabinet secretary, and he's not a principal secretary either. He doesn't appear in the government or nanogram, which means he has power without accountability. He can operate freely in the shadows and make deals, influence decisions, and if something goes wrong, there is no paper trail leading back to him. He's literally a ghost. Now, some people will tell you that Faruk is just loyal, just a dedicated aide who has been with Ruto for years, and maybe that's true. But loyalty in politics isn't charity, it's a transaction. Faruk is loyal because Ruto rewards that loyalty with access, with influence, with the ability to shape decisions. And over the years, Faruk has been built by his own network. Faruk has built his own network, his own relationships, and his own power base. He's no longer just a Ruto's guy, he's a power broker, and that makes him the first person in the list. Faruk Kibet, the gatekeeper, the fixer, and the man who controls access to the most powerful office in Kenya. Now let's move to number 2. And this one might surprise you, because this person isn't a politician, but controls one of the most powerful forces in modern Kenya. He controls public opinion. Davis Chirchir. You might know him as the Secretary for Roads and Transport, and yes, he does have that official role now. But that's not why he is on the list. Davis Chirchir is on the list because of what he did before. Because Davis is a communication strategist. Davis was one of the key architects of Ruto's 2022 presidential campaign, the digital strategy, and that time when Raila Odinga had the entire establishment behind him, Davis and his team built a counter-narrative. They turned Ruto into the underdog. They used TikTok, they used Twitter, they used WhatsApp, Facebook, everything to flood the information space with Ruto's message, and it actually worked. Ruto won, and a huge part of that victory was the information war, and Davis was the one leading that war. But here's why Davis is still powerful now. He's still managing Ruto's image, still coordinating responses to scandals, still directing the online army of supporters who defend the government no matter what. You've seen them, the Twitter accounts, the TikTok creators, the Facebook pages, the YouTubers, all pushing the same talking points, all defending Ruto. He's also the guy who handles the difficult PR situation. When Ruto says something controversial, Davis is crafting a clarification. When a scandal breaks, David is working on the fonts, managing the damage. When a political opponent needs to be discredited, Davis is the one deploying the digital troops. He is the information minister without the title, the propaganda chief without the office. And in an era where perception is actually reality, Davis Chirchir is one of the most powerful people in Kenya because he controls what you see and what you hear and what you believe, and that makes him number 2 on the list. Now, we move to number 3, and this one is about money, because politics isn't free. Campaigns usually cost billions. Keeping MPs loyal cost money, and funding grassroots networks cost money as well. And someone has to manage that money. Someone has to be the bank. And in Ruto's operation, that person is David Langat. You probably haven't heard of him, and that's by design. Davis Langat is not a public figure. He's not even on TV, and he's not giving speeches. He operates in the background. He's one of the most important people in Ruto's inner circle. Why? Because David Langat is a money man. David is a businessman with interest in real estate, construction, logistics, and several other sectors. But his real role is being Ruto's financier, the guy who helps fund operations, the guy who connects Ruto to other wealthy individuals who can contribute, and the guy who manages the flow of money that keeps the political machine running. Politics in Kenya is expensive. An MP needs millions just to stay relevant in their constituency. A presidential campaign, we are talking about billions. And that money doesn't come from salaries. It comes from business people, from tenders, from deals, and from people like David Langat. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying David is doing anything illegal. I'm saying it's just part of the system where politics and business are deeply intertwined. He's the bridge between Ruto and the business community. When Ruto needs funds for a political operation, David helps mobilize it. When a business person wants access to Ruto, David facilitates it. He's the treasurer. That makes David Langat incredibly powerful because politicians are loyal to the people who fund them, and David helps control that funding, which means he has leverage, influence, and power. So when you see Ruto making decisions that favor certain business interests, behind those decisions are the people like David Langat, people who fund the machine and who expect returns on the investment. That's number 3, David Langat, the money man, the financier. Now let's talk about number 4, and this is where things really get interesting. The person is about strategy, a political strategist. And that person is Senator Aaron Cheruiyot. You know him as the Senate Majority Leader, but that is just his title. His real role is being Ruto's political strategist, the guy who thinks 3 steps ahead, the guy who plans how to neutralize opponents and how to win votes, how to control parliament, how to manage coalitions. Aaron Cheruiyot is young. Actually, he's in his 30s, but he's been in Ruto's orbit for years. He has proven himself to be one of the sharpest political minds in the country. He understands the game, he knows how to count votes, he knows how to build alliances and how to break them, how to use parliamentary procedure to get what he wants, how to turn opposition into irrelevance. Look at how Ruto has managed parliament since taking office. The opposition is fractured, and that is not by accident, it is by strategy. And Aaron is one of the architects. He's the guy coordinating with MPs, making deals and offering incentives, threatening consequences. He's actually the enforcer in the legislative space, making sure that Ruto's agenda passes, making sure that opposition bills die, making sure that the government has the numbers when it matters. He is also Ruto's eyes and ears on the ground. Aaron is from Rift Valley. He understands the base. He knows what the people are thinking. He knows when there is trouble brewing, and he reports back to Ruto. He advises and also suggests course corrections. And Ruto listens because Aaron has provided his value. That's number 4, Senator Aaron Cheruiyot, the strategist, the enforcer, the man who makes sure that Ruto's political machine runs smoothly in parliament and beyond. And now, number 5. This is the most controversial person, and actually one of the most powerful and the most secretive, and that person is Ruto's wife, Rachel Ruto. Now, before you dismiss this, hear me out. Rachel Ruto is just not the first lady. She is actually his most trusted advisor to Ruto, the person he confides in, and the person whose opinion he values above everyone else. And here is why this matters. Because Rachel has no political ambitions of her own. It's not like she's trying to build her own career. She's not trying to position herself for anything, which means when she gives Ruto advice, it is not tainted by self-interest. It's about what she genuinely thinks is best for them. And Ruto trusts that. Rachel is also deeply involved in government agendas, and she runs her own office, manages her own programs, and focuses on issues like education, women empowerment, community development. But don't mistake that for the ceremonial work. Rachel has access. She meets with ministers, with business leaders, with community leaders, and she reports back to Ruto. She shapes his understanding of what is happening on the ground. She influences priorities, and she's also the moral compass for Ruto. When Ruto is making a difficult decision, when he's being pulled in by different direction by his advisors with different agendas, Rachel is the voice he listens to. So there you have it. Ruto's inner circle, the 5 people who actually run Kenya. Faruk Kibet, the gatekeeper who controls access to the president. Davis Chirchir, the communication strategist who shapes public opinion. David Langat, the financier who funds the political machine. Senator Aaron Cheruiyot, the political strategist who manages parliament and plans the long game. And Rachel Ruto, the first lady who has Ruto's trust like no one else. These are not the people you will see on TV every day. They are not the ones giving press conferences or cutting ribbons, but they are the ones who are making the real decisions in the shadows. And here's the question you should be asking. If this is how democracy is supposed to work, should 5 unelected people have this much power? Should decisions that affect 50 million Kenyans be made by a small circle behind closed doors? I don't have the answer, but I know this. As long as you don't know who's really in charge, you can't hold them accountable, you can't question them, and you can't challenge them. And that's exactly how they want it. And the next time you see a government decision that doesn't make sense, the next time you wonder why are things happening the way they are, remember these names, because they're the ones pulling the strings. And unless something changes, they'll keep pulling them, while the rest of us watch and wonder and hope that maybe, just maybe, someone in that room is thinking about us. Like the video so more people can see it. Subscribe if you want some more honest breakdowns like this. And this was the Diary of Africa, and I love you.